Gerrymandering has, of course, narrowed the playing field, created a House that is more divided than ever, but California may have found an intriguing solution to that supposed problem. They're holding elections between the top two primary vote getters, regardless of party. I want to bring back the chairman of the DCCC and the NRCC, Steve Israel and Greg Walden, and curious what you guys think of the California experiment. Greg Walden, you first.
Well, it's an interesting experience. I know it didn't work out in California 31 very well for my colleague here last time when Pete Aguilar failed to get into the number 2 slot, and now they've got a 3- or 4-way primary going out there among Democrats, and it's that's going to be a really competitive race, but it can end up with a really interesting result. We ended up with 2 Republicans.
This is healthier for the system, but let's talk about it. And guess what? And those 2 Republicans, who was the swing vote? Democrats, right? So they had to prove they weren't just talking to the base, right? I mean, that's the point.
Yeah, although Gary Miller's a pretty conservative Republican, but he knows how to represent the district, and so it creates some interesting results, no doubt about it. But I think in the end it'll be more traditional.
Steve, should be a model for other states?
Well, that's up to other states. Look, we will have a handful of primaries on our side of the aisle. Greg and his party have a holy war on their side of the aisle.
I don't know if I'd
largely as a result of redistricting. The unintended consequence of redistricting is it is true that many of their districts kind of nudge further to the right. But so you have Republican incumbents who wake up every morning not thinking about a general election, but in absolute paralyzed fear of a primary from their right. It is what explains the inherent chaos and instability of House Republicans on the floor. They couldn't muster the votes on the fiscal cliff. They couldn't muster the votes on aid to victims of Hurricane Sandy.
So you know what's interesting about
intolerance
about some of that is when we do have a big bipartisan vote on legislation, suddenly we're something that he doesn't like, and yet he talks about we want to govern from the middle and get things done. Well, the fiscal cliff, we got things done together.
You produced about 20 votes.
Was a majority of Democrats.
We got things done, though. We moved legislation, and we will going forward.
Let me ask you both about redistricting lawsuits. Texas and Florida are the 2. Are there going to be, do you think there'll be new maps? Do you think there'll be new maps? I'll start with you.
Oh, that's something that the courts in both states have to decide upon, and the legislatures in both states have to decide.
We just get handed what the courts.
So, but those are the 2 that
I think Texas will probably come out about where it's at, the legislatures.
All right. I want to talk to you about this primary issue. You've got Club for Growth, primary, my congressman. You're a target of them. Okay, you yourself. Congratulations. They announced their first big successful candidate recruitment endorsement against Mike Simpson in Idaho. How much of it, is there any chance that any incumbent Republican at the NRCC would not get NRCC support?
Well, remember, we're about beating Democrats, and I would hope the Club for Growth would be about beating Democrats and in growing our majority. But we're not the only party, by the way, Chuck, with primaries. I mean, you got Mike McIntyre down North Carolina now facing a primary because he's too moderate or whatever for the Democrats. And so a county commissioner, African-American down there, is challenging him. I mean, they've got primaries across as well.
But do you acknowledge that the primary issue, that this intra-party feud, if you guys have problems in the fall, is it because of primary issues?
Well, but you know what? It's a free country. Both sides. I mean, you get back out to California 31. I mean, Emily's List is endorsing one candidate. They've endorsed another candidate. There are members that are supporting former Congressman Baca. This is not unique to either party. This is something we all face. And you know what? You need to go win your primary. You need to go win it at home, and then you move forward.
Steve Israel, your challenge is recruiting candidates and trying to convince them that despite what people like me say and others that 2014 is a status quo election, that you have a chance. I've heard other Democrats tell me that a lot of answers you're getting is, call me again in 2016. How do you combat that problem?
Well, I haven't heard much of that at all. First of all, let me say on this show I will endorse Greg Walden in his primary. Because of that, I'm not sure. But we'll see. Look, actually, on recruiting, we are way ahead of our game. We need 17 seats to pick up the House. We'll have 52 in play. Of our top 15 districts, the districts that the president won or closely won, high Democratic Performance Index, of the top 15, we've got 15 recruits in place. They are solutionists. They are problem solvers.
So you're not getting people saying no to you, saying, we'll wait till Hillary Clinton's at the top of the ticket?
I thought I read that in BuzzFeed from June 10th where you said that was the problem, and they're going to wait until 16 and you're hearing that.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was talking about one individual in a very conservative district who we would have loved to run in 2014, and he said, in this district, I think I have a better shot at 2016. So yes, in that one district in the Deep South, okay.
Steve Israel, Greg Walden, this was an enjoyable discussion. You guys did it in a very uplifting way. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I hope we do it again.
You bet.
For more on